Growing up and being named Christian without being confirmed came with its own set of unique challenges. My parents wanted my sister and I to have our own identity when it came to religion. They wanted us to experience it for ourselves on our own time. Progressive parenting led to progressive children, they thought, and in places like Austin, Chicago, or Tulsa, this wouldn't be out of the ordinary. But in the middle of Bellevue, Nebraska, being more progressive than your neighbor wasn't exactly the greatest thing. An Air Force community where the dominant religion was Christianity made awkward conversations and glances at holiday parties when you said, "I'm an atheist." Or for me, I heard the phrase, "So are you a Christian?" so often that eventually my answer became, "Do you think you're clever?" It took me a really long time to come to understand my own religion. And looking back on it, I think what my parents did for my sister and I was probably the greatest thing. But in the moment, it never really felt that way. I was never baptized. I never went to church, never confirmed, never went to midnight mass like so many other good Catholics. Instead, my parents wanted me to discover religion on my own time. And they would try and help out as best they could, but if they didn't know how to help me out, they would point me in a direction to figure it out for myself. I had stacks of books on Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism. Finally, after months of thumbing through pages, I stumbled upon Taoism, or the following of the way. As an adventurous 11-year-old, I said to myself, this is something I could get behind. A religion focused on attuning oneself to nature. And from that day forward, in the 6th grade, I was a self-proclaimed Taoist. It was something that I could be, focused on trees, flowers, the birds and the bees, all things that I loved. And why not follow something where I had a real physical connection with, instead of spiritually being connected to some deity, when this was real? 6th grade is a hard time for most youths, I think. Your bodies are changing, you're slowly turning into the asshole that you're meant to be, and it was the first time that my classmates and I ever learned about history from around the world. Miss Party was our 6th grade world history teacher, and in her class, we learned about religions from around the world. Most of my classmates had never been exposed to any other religion besides Christianity, so in many ways, I was ahead of the curve. On that particular day, we were started to learn about Taoism. Miss Party started off the discussion by asking the question, do any of you know what Taoism is? And me, being the eager 11-year-old that I was, exclaimed, I do! I'm a Taoist! Silence. The classroom was still and quiet, so much so that the hamster in the back of the room stopped running on its wheel to listen to the blasphemy that had just come out of a student's mouth. Quickly, Miss Party swept my exclamation under the rug and announced, "Time for recess!" We bundled up, and I had no idea what was wrong. Winters in Nebraska are cold, and the wind has the power to cut you down. On that day, the wind was especially bad. I remember sitting on the bike near the bike racks when a boy, who I will name Sean, came in front of me. "You think you're so cool," he said. Confused, I retorted, "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do, faggot. Everyone knows faggot." He kept saying faggot because 6th grade boys have a sixth sense for budding gay youth. Soon, a group of my classmates started to filter in behind Sean and circle around me. He came in close to my face and started to push me around. "God hates you, faggot." I punched to the face, stinging worse than the winter winds ever could. "You are going to burn in hell." Boos and hisses erupted from my classmates, and the wind whipped around us, as if it were agreeing with them. Sean kept pushing me and yelling the same slurs over and over again until the crowd started chanting, "God hates you! God hates you! God hates you!" The bell finally rang, and the kids scattered like cockroaches at the flick of a light switch. My eyes were open. and I was breathing on the smooth pavement, the words ringing in my head. I remember walking home that night and really believing that I was going to go to hell. And from that day forward, I was no longer going to be Christian. I was forever going to just be Ian, taking Christ right out of my name, so that people didn't have to believe that I was a believer. Forever only lasted 3 years, and going into high school, I went back to my name Christian. I realized that I would always encounter hate. Hate for being gay, hate for not believing, hate for just being, and why should I have to cave for others? But the words that Sean said to me on that day still followed me into high school. At age 16, I even wrote a blog post about it. My name is Christian, and I am a 16-year-old unbaptized homosexual. I have been taking the world in strides ever since the day those kids told me that I was going to hell, and I am trying to just live this life. When someone asks me if I believe in God, I just look at them and say, I don't know. I slowly began to realize that maybe religion wasn't for me, and the I don't know became I don't believe. But there was still the pesky problem of my name. Here was this homosexual atheist who had no idea why he was named what he was named. So I asked my father, and he said, I'll tell you on your 18th birthday. What a wonderful surprise. Only 2 more years until I found out the history of my name. I told all my friends that there was a story behind who I was. And they sat patiently, feigning enthusiasm as we waited to find the history of who I was. It wasn't actually until my 19th birthday that I found out the secret. My father pulled me onto the back porch in August, lit a cigarette, and told me the story. When your mother was pregnant with you, I was in the library working on my thesis, the Bible as literary fiction. You know that. At any rate, I was doing a lot of reading on the Bible, reading the Bible, and hearing people talk about their relationship with God. And I'm not a religious person, son, but I found myself knowing more than these people. These people who claim to know the Word of God, but I was reading the Word and it never matched up. I was angry. I was fueled with fire against the practices of the church that were teaching people wrong and teaching people to interpret the Word of God as steadfast truth when it really is just a bunch of stories. So on the day of your birth, I decided to take a stand and name you out of my own pride as someone who knew the Word of God than those who said they did. And there it was. The truth was finally revealed, and I was supposed to be happy about what this was, but I wasn't satisfied. Because of my father, I was bullied, I was picked on, I was traumatized on the playground in 6th grade. I would forever have to go around explaining that my name is Christian, but I am not a Christian. And God, why? Also, my father could stick it to the big man. But then I realized that a name is just a name and you can't let it define you. I mean, sure, if your name is Candy Balzac, you probably have a lot more work to do than others, but you can still rise above it. And I had, and I continue to do so to this day. Living my life without religion, without being shamed for my name, without fear of discrimination. My name is Christian Rush. I'm an atheist homosexual, and that's fine.